Hey everybody, welcome to the KF Podcast. This is Don, standing here in my Lost shrine with my Dharma Initiative shirt on. I just finished watching Lost for the third time. Watched it with my wife. And since it's fresh in my head here, I wanted to do a breakdown about it. So I did about a 45 to 50 minute breakdown. We put it on our SoundCloud channel, which you can also check out on iTunes or whatever you listen to, whatever you get your podcast on. So please go check that out. But you know, when I talk about Lost online with people, I always see four questions that kind of annoy me. These questions are, what was the island? Why were they there? Were they dead the entire time? And what was the flash sideways? So I figured I would do a video where I just focused on these four particular questions and talked about them and my theory on them. So hopefully this, if you're a fan of Lost and you had some questions, maybe this would help you out. Like I said, I got my cool Lost poster here. Let's take a better look at that. This is in my basement right here, my Lost photo. I really like this picture. It's really cool. It's got all the characters in it. I love my Dharma van that I have here and my smoke monster picture. Standing next to my triplex. And it's just some cool, that one's a cool piece. It's from Etsy. And then I got Jacob that I found in like a dollar store bin. So let's get into it. Yeah, let's talk about these four items and break them down. And I hope you enjoy it. Let's break down Lost. Okay, so let's get into it here. We're going to go through these four questions here. Like I said, we're going to do what is the island? Why are they on the island? What is the flash sideways? And were they dead all along? The most annoying question that I get all the time. So let's start with the first one. What is the island? The island on Lost is basically the source of all good and evil in the world. This is held together by what they call on the island the heart of the island. That's where the light comes from. This light, this magical light that's on this island, it keeps the balance of good and evil not only on the island, but the entire planet. This island is like the centerpiece of our world. Like everything that's good and evil and all that balance that you need in the world comes from this island, and it's held together in the center of the island, in this heart of the island. There's actually like a cork or a seal which keeps back this light intact on the island. And when it's broken, which you see in the last episode, or removed, it just starts to crumble and starts to fall apart and destroy the island. And when that happens, then the entire world would be lost. Everything would go crazy. Evil would take over, and there'd just be mass chaos everywhere. This island being the center with this energy, it's a land now of just mystery and all sorts of different types of energy live on the island and are on the island. There's electromagnetic energy, there's mystical energy, there's all sorts of stuff. Due to these unique properties, dead people, when they die on the island and they can't move on, their souls are actually trapped on the island. That's why you hear like the whispers in the woods you think are the others. There's people like that on the island. There's healing that goes on the island. There's people that have experienced trauma in their life like Locke, and then all of a sudden can walk when they're on the island and are healed up because they're on the island. So all this stuff in this island just makes it the most like special place on Earth. And people have stumbled across it, or some people have found it by accident. Other people were drawn there. So on the island, you have the protector of the island. The original protector of the island, as far back as the show tells us, of course there probably could have been some before it, was this person that we refer to as the Mother. She had Jacob and the Man in Black. She stole them from Claudia. Again, if you want more detail on this, you have to listen to the full one over on iTunes or SoundCloud. But she was the first protector that we know of. Then it went to Jacob. Jacob passed it on to Jack, and then Jack on to Hurley, and so forth. So this protector of the island, they keep this light safe, they keep it protected, and then their mission is they create the rules of the island. Who's allowed to leave, who's allowed to come, what goes on, who's allowed to interact with each other, and they have to search for replacements. they have to search for someone that will one day take on this role protector, and these are candidates. So that brings us to question number 2. Question number 2, why are they on the island? Well, that's why. They're there as candidates. They are brought to this island, the survivors of the plane crash. Most of them were brought there as candidates. Candidates that will one day take Jacob's place. Obviously, that ends up being Jack and then Hurley. This revolves around those numbers, the 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. Locke was 4, 8 was Hugo, 15 was Sawyer, 16 was Saeed, 23 was Jack, and 14 was one of the Kwans, either son or Jen. They never really told you which one. Now, everyone else on the plane, like Charlie, Shannon, and all these other people, they were all candidates too. They, for some reason, stopped being candidates. Kate was a candidate as well too. Different things in life, like Claire was a candidate, but then she became a mother. Same thing with Kate. Different thing. Mr. Echo was a candidate until he forgave himself and actually became a better person and wasn't hung up. The type of people that they look for to be a candidate that's what's the intriguing part is. They're not looking for this person that's the greatest person in the world and a leader and maybe is perfect. Jacob actually looks for people that are twisted and broken, that can't succeed in life. They're having different troubles. Jack just couldn't get his father's approval, wasn't happy in his marriage, wasn't happy in his career. Sawyer was, trying to find the person that killed his parents. They need the island, like Jacob tells them, almost as much as the island needs them. So these people are all broken, and it makes them the perfect candidates for Jacob to bring there, test them, and then let's see who actually ascends into this great leader, like Jack became, and then eventually Hurley. So that's why they were on the island. They were there the entire time, being tested by Jacob to see who would actually ascend to leader and save the day. And as this person, your goal then became to stop the man in black, Jacob's brother, from leaving the island. Because if he would leave the island, since he was basically absorbed by the island into pure evil, he would cause evil all around the world. It'd basically be like releasing the devil on the world. So that was one of their missions of the candidates, was to do that. You revealed all this stuff in Season 6 in The Flash Sideways. So question number 3, what is The Flash Sideways? So throughout Lost, you had flashbacks where they would show you the candidates and the survivors in their past, everything that they got into, how they interacted with each other, ways that they found each other earlier in life, times Jacob visited them. Then you got flash forwards when you had the Oceanic Six who left the island and what they were doing in the future to show how they eventually came back to the island. So you had flashbacks, flash forwards. Season 6, they introduced the Flash Sideways, which confused the hell out of everybody, because a lot of people thought that when the incident happened and a nuke exploded on the island, that it created this alternate dimension, because Season 6, as you remember, starts off with Jack on the plane and it lands in LAX and the island is sunk and it's like it never happened. So people thought that it created this alternate dimension that they were in. That's not what it was at all. What the Flash Sideways is it's purgatory. It's a land that exists when you die and you go to this world and you basically live out your life, and maybe there's some moderations or some changes, some things that you do differently that you didn't do in your regular life. Like Sawyer, instead of being a bad guy and a con man, became a cop. Jack was married. He had a kid. It's all these different little things that you do. Locke was started marrying his girlfriend instead of leaving her. He had a relationship with his dad. He was nice with his father. His father wasn't a con man. So it's like these things that you go and you have to live out these things to put your soul at rest. And then once you do that, you're able to move on. Now, how are they all there at the same time is the question that people ask. And you have to not think of time like you normally think of time. So, for instance, if Sawyer dies after he leaves the island, let's say he lives to be 70, and Jack dies on the island when Sawyer left, they arrive in the Flash Sideways at the same time, because time doesn't matter. So as soon as you die, whatever point you died, Hurley maybe not have died for 500 years later. But when they did, they end up there at the same time in this purgatory, in the afterlife. So yes, they are all dead in the Flash Sideways. That is, you're seeing them all dead there. What you don't know is how they all got there. And that's what plays parallel with the Flash Sideways, showing you that, like, Sayid did die. The Kwans did die. Jack did die. Locke died. But they all arrived in his Flash Sideways at the same time. And the key to it is Desmond. Desmond was always the constant in the series because he was, like, trapped inside of out of time. And that's what he was used for, to his connection with Penny, the stuff he did with the other survivors, to, like, the different powers that he's shown. Desmond was always the key to, like, saving the island, and he's the key, and he's the constant with Daniel Faraday. He's the key to bringing them all back. He's the first one in the Flash Sideways that wakes up and remembers, hey, I had a life, I had Penny, and then he goes and finds Penny, and then he starts putting all the people on their journey to find each other. He makes Sayid and Shannon meet each other, and they realize who they are, and then they wake up. He makes Hurley find himself. He makes Sawyer and Juliet find themselves. He does all these things to put them in position. He has Locke discover who he is, Ben discover who he is. He's the key to bringing them all together, getting them to one spot so they can all move on together. Now, why do they have to move all on together? Well, let's get into question number 4. Were they dead all along? No, they were not. I hate when people say that they were, and when they think, oh, they were just dead the entire time, that's what this is. That's not what it was at all. Everything that happened. The island was real. Their time on the island was real. Everything that they did there was real. All the connections that they made and the people that they made, it was real. What they show you at the end is the way purgatory works and the way moving on to heaven works is whoever mattered the most to you in your life, like whatever period of your life that was so important and the connections you made were so real, those are the people you have to find and you have to reconnect with. Let's say you went to college and you met some people and you had the best time of your life, but the rest of your life you never really did anything with yourself and you never really had that connection. If the other people felt the same way, those people, that's who you would move on with. So this experience that they had on the island, and Jack's dad explains it to him, it meant so much to them. It was so real and so important to them that they all had to find each other in this afterlife, thanks to Desmond, and get together and have these reactions, have these reunions, wake up together, and then meet at the church where they were going to originally bury Jack's, or do the funeral for Jack's dad, but they had to meet in this church. And then they all found each other. And, I mean, it's a great scene when, Kate and Jack find each other again, and Charlie and Claire. But also when they're in the church and Jack comes out and he realizes what's going on. He realizes that he's dead, too. Very emotional scene. The first person that he comes in contact with is Locke. And it's really cool for a guy that was like his rival the entire time. They shook hands, and it was sort of a moment of, hey, I understand, man. Like, finally, I understand everything that you were saying to me, Locke. Like, I should have believed in you. And it's Locke telling him, like, it's okay. Like, you did good. You saved everybody. Like, it's a pure moment between two good friends. Same thing when Jack and Sawyer hug and meet each other. It's just two brothers finally putting the past in the past and getting together. It's a great scene when they're all there because they're all so happy and they're with the ones they love, and together they move on to heaven. So, yes, at the end of the show, they were all dead together. But everything they did on the island happened. You never saw what Sawyer and Kate and Claire, who made it off the island, did. Richard, they may have went on and had all kind of other adventures. They maybe went on and Hurley had all kind of adventures. That's something that I would like to see moving forward if they were ever going to do a sequel, is take Hurley and Ben and show us what they did on the island with Walt. Flashback to the Egyptians building the statue of Tuaret and all that other stuff, and there's a lot of mystery left on this island and stuff that happened on this island in the future that you could do. I would like to see more of the island. You don't have to bring back Jack and Kate and those people, but the island is special, and I think the island should move on in future stories. So I hope that this helped. I hope that you enjoyed this. It wasn't too long. And leave some comments and let's talk about it. I love talking about Lost. I love talking about theories. Share some of your theories. I would love to hear it. Again, go over to SoundCloud or iTunes and listen to the full version over there that I did. It's about 45 minutes long where I really got into some details about some theories and explanations. And I hope you enjoy it. And like they say in Lost, namaste.